Sketchbook Meditation Series late night session with Angie Mason. That's me. Hi, I'm Angie. Welcome to another episode in my Sketchbook Meditation Series. This is a very relaxed late night sketchbook meditation that leans on the nostalgic side. I hope you join me as we clear space before we head off to dream and have more room for ideas and dreams. So, if you're ready, let's begin. So, I'm gonna basically not think, and I'm gonna use Hemi gouache. I'm just gonna lay in some colors. I don't even know what colors I want to go for. So I'm just going to dip into any color, and we're just going to start by just maybe making some shapes, squares. Maybe think about little pixels, little square pixels you'd see when you'd stare at a television set when you were a kid. You sat too close and you got mesmerized by all those tiny little pieces of color that when you backed out and they came together to form the picture. I think a lot of the memory kind of paintings that I've been doing in this journal have been on the nostalgic side. You could obviously do whatever you want. If you want to make circles, shapes, whatever. If you wanted to draw an actual animal, anything you want to do where you're not really putting too much stress or thought about making it perfect. Because this is not about perfection, it's just about movement and release. Movement and release. Releasing all the thoughts from the day, clearing out your brain, making room for dreams, and also relaxing yourself. At the end of the day, calming your mind. That's what these sketchbook meditations are partially for. They're also just to loosen yourself up. I like to do them when maybe I'm about to work on some other paintings. And before I work on them, it's almost like taking a warm-up bike ride before you actually do a bike ride. But you can also think of it as just a cool down paint job, a cool down paint ride where you're just closing out your day, just getting a little bit of static out of your mind onto paper. And there's something about creating something physically, like in real life, It's very satisfying. Even if it's not perfect, it's still satisfying. I mean, scribbles on pages can be really freeing. Just moving my brush around, not really thinking, worrying that it's perfect or not, or what it looks like, or what it means. Like I said, I'm just thinking about a release. You know, maybe I want to just paint over some sections for no reason. It just happens. And this is not about technique or, making something look perfect or anything like that. This is really about kind of a relaxation method. Just letting yourself go. Not worrying about things not looking right. Just go with it and see what happens. Now, of course, you have pages in your sketchbook that might be actually more like a finished painting or more conceptual, representational. That's not necessarily what these meditations are about, because it's kind of getting away from all of that to just be free. When you think about when you were a little kid, and you'd get paint on a page, and you'd make these kind of, free marks, mark making, filled with joy and discovery. And if you heard any sort of knocking around right now, that is my cat getting into trouble. But yes, back to sort of that nostalgic idea of when you would first explore poster paints. And I like these Hemi gouache paint sets that they have because it reminds me of those early days of playing around with poster paint. Even though it's gouache, I think some of the I was using a lot of tempera paints when I was a kid, and probably gouaches. But you would just be so excited to have all the colors and just slop them around on the page, covering things up, moving things around. You weren't thinking like, oh no, like nothing was overly precious. And you just we're moving things around and seeing like, oh, look, if I do this, I can make these lines, and that's cool. And I remember when you'd watch those channels that would get bad reception, and these black, dark, thick lines would run across the screen, rotate in the picture, and it was pretty mesmerizing. Sometimes they'd be thin lines, but grouped together. They would vary in shapes and thicknesses. But it'd be like a parade of horizontal lines on a pixelated screen. Static would mix in. I might just let this page dry a little bit before going back into it. Not that I'll necessarily do it in this video, but sort of created a nostalgic texturescape, memory, and nonsense. We might echo that on this side a little bit. This page could be its own thing. Sometimes you just want to make nice brush strokes. Just loosen it up. I know sometimes when I work on my book and I get the page too wet, it seeps through and makes the other pages stick together and things change. For me, that's okay. But I try not to get too attached or precious with images that I make in my sketchbooks. It's more about exploring and just being free and not getting hung up on being perfect and precious. I want to explore, the way that the paint on the paintbrush there makes these nice, sort of like fine lines. It's a nice texture. So it feels nice to paint. This starts to remind me of dominoes, which when we were kids, we loved just lining up dominoes and knocking them down. And the click-clacking sound that they would make when they'd hit each other, knocking each other over, and just watching them fall, building something up, and then knocking it down. It was oddly satisfying. And we would spend hours sometimes making really, like filling an entire dining room table with dominoes in different lines, and they'd kind of curve around, and you'd get as elaborate as many dominoes as you had available to you, and then you would knock them down. And that was a fun night. And this was a fun night too, spending a little time just doing a little sketchbook meditation and relaxing my brain, getting it ready for a peaceful night of rest and making room for dreams. I hope that you had fun and you joined in and made your own. If you did, share it with me. I'd love to see it. Well, I think we're going to call this a night. Thank you for joining me, doing a little sketchbook meditation in my studio. If you like our videos, be sure to subscribe to youtube.com/Angie Mason. Thank you for joining me for another sketchbook meditation. I hope you were able to create more space in your mind and relax and release all the noise as you head off to dream. I'm Angie. Keep dreaming yourselves awake. Take care till next time.